A long time ago, a hero defeated a demon lord who was terrorizing the world, and then created Rosewood Academy to train future heroes. Fast forward to the present, Ernest Flaming, known as the Empress of Flames, reigns supreme as the Academy's top student. However, her world is turned upside down when she crosses paths with Blade, a carefree slacker of a transfer student who is roughly equal to her in power and fighting skills. The king asks her to supervise Blade and show him around the academy. Thus begins the students' quest to become true heroes. The story begins amidst a breathtaking battle between the hero and the demon king. The two clash ferociously, their movements surpassing the speed of sound, ripping powerful shockwaves in their wake. Equally matched, they stand panting before each other after draining their strength in relentless combat. In a stunning climax, both drive their swords through each other's chests, ending their lives. The scene transitions to a bright morning at Rosewood Academy with the arrival of a new transfer student named Blade. Everything feels unfamiliar to him, yet he brims with enthusiasm to make friends. Blade dashes around, introducing himself to every student he encounters. Among them is Ernest Flaming, known as the Empress despite her stern demeanor. Blade inquires about the headmaster's office, only to find His Majesty occupying the seat. Demonstrating his easygoing nature, Blade casually greets His Majesty, much to Ernest's chagrin. His Majesty dismisses Ernest to converse privately with Blade. His Majesty reveals his own desire to reform the academy system left by his predecessor. Blade heads to the advanced training arena, where Ernest oversees the trainees. Ernest is surprised to see someone with such a casual attitude in the advanced training section. She challenges Blade to slice through enchanted metal armor, which he accomplishes with his signature move, the Dragon Eater, causing significant damage to the arena and shocking everyone present. Later at lunch, Blade joins Ernest at her table, proclaiming her as his friend. Although Ernest is unamused, Blade stays and enjoys the meal. That night, Ernest contemplates the day's events, feeling conflicted. Suddenly, the demon sword on the rack vibrates, its voice demanding her surrender. As the next head of the Flaming family, she refuses. The following day, Ernest enters training with newfound power, but the demon sword's influence nearly causes her to harm her partners, Leonard and Sophie. She challenges Blade but faints before their confrontation. Blade carries her to the infirmary, realizing her condition exceeds the staff's expertise. Determined to help, he delves into a highly protected lab to research the demon sword, 𝐒𝐶𝐿. After class, Blade confronts Ernest about the sword's influence. She reveals her past encounter with it at the age of 6, which instilled in her a hunger for blood and carnage, a desire she has suppressed since then. Encouraged by Blade, Ernest faces the demon within the sword, fearing its complete takeover. With faith in Blade, Ernest challenges the demon, engaging in a fierce battle. She emerges victorious. A bright new day of training dawns. Ernest approaches, urging him to take the training seriously, but Blade finds it lacking in challenge. She redirects Blade to practice with Sophie instead. Sophie, obedient as ever, embraces Blade's guidance despite her unfamiliarity with swordplay, having grown accustomed to fighting bare-fisted. Recognizing her latent potential, Blade takes it upon himself to train her. During their sessions, Blade becomes drawn to Sophie. The next day, His Majesty reveals Sophie's true origin to Blade. She is a product of the artificial Great Hero Project, created to bestow heroic powers upon a chosen candidate. Blade feels responsible for Sophie's lack of a normal life, realizing that his existence necessitated the creation of an artificial hero. Determined to ensure Sophie experiences a semblance of normalcy, he embarks on a quest to understand youth. After gathering insights from his peers, Blade learns about the significance of love and dating in youth culture. He devises a plan for a friendly date with Sophie, who agrees to accompany him. As they embark on their date, both Blade and Sophie navigate their newfound experience with enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Ernest and her friends covertly observe them, consumed by jealousy. Throughout the date, Blade and Sophie grow closer, sharing moments of intimacy such as hand-holding. As the date nears its end, Blade and Sophie settle by a fountain to talk. Blade confesses his role in Sophie's unconventional upbringing, blaming himself for her circumstances. Sophie, in turn, reassures him, recounting the gratitude expressed by those whose lives he's touched. She reveals her powers, demonstrating her control over physics while admitting to their limitations. Comforting Blade, she assures him of the positive impact he's had on countless lives, emphasizing that his existence is indeed a blessing. Blade and the rest of the training crew enjoy their lunch, joined by the 4 new recruits on their first day. Amidst the meal, Ernest mentions His Majesty's plan to introduce a magical beast to the academy. While Blade remains nonchalant, the other recruits are gripped with terror at the prospect. Suddenly, a deafening rumble reverberates through the room as the beast crashes down, leaving a gaping hole in the ceiling. Everyone recoils in fear, except for Blade. In a swift move, Blade leaps into the air and delivers a powerful blow to the dragon's head, causing it to crash to the ground. The onlookers are awestruck by Blade's display of power. Offering the dragon a plate of food, Blade watches as it transforms into a little girl who affectionately calls him parent and clings to him, naming the girl Q. Later, as he bathes Q, Ernest takes the initiative to enlighten Blade about dragons transforming into humans, shedding light on their peculiar nature. During lunch, however, their camaraderie is tested when Q accuses Blade of spending too much time admiring female bodies, leading his friends to boycott him. Observing Q wandering the academy grounds later that day, Blade realizes her need for companionship. Returning to his room, Blade finds Q playing with her toys, mimicking his friends. Recognizing her need for a friend, Blade grapples with the reality that dragons can only acknowledge those stronger than themselves. Determined to help Q, Blade, and Ernest rally the students to challenge the dragon. Initially apprehensive, the students eventually muster the courage to join the battle, preparing for the daunting task ahead. The clash at Rosewood Academy erupts as Q, the dragon, launches a relentless assault against the students. Led by Ernest's swift intervention, the students band together to fend off Q's fiery attacks. Though their attack fails to deal significant damage, it creates enough chaos to disorient Q, turning the tide of the battle. As Q reverts to her human form, she fears Blade's rejection, but he reassures her, accepting her as a friend. His Majesty introduces a new VR training method, signaling a new phase in their education. During lunch, the students enjoy newfound camaraderie with Q, but Blade notices Ernest's distress over her weight gain. Over the following days, Ernest isolates herself, consumed by insecurity. Concerned for Ernest's well-being, Blade and his friends apologize and resolve to help her regain confidence. They find her indulging in sweets, contributing to her weight gain. Blade pledges to assist her in getting back in shape. Despite rigorous efforts, Ernest's weight continues to increase. Desperate for a solution, she harnesses the power of the demon within her to burn calories rapidly. Successful but drained, she succumbs to a ravenous hunger, threatening her friends. Blade intervenes, quelling the flames and protecting them. Despite her ordeal, Ernest remains fixated on consuming sweets for her next transformation. After a brief visit to the doctor, Blade's health improves, but he's warned against exceeding 30% of his full power, which could prove fatal. Jessica introduces Maria to Blade, revealing Maria's request for him to end her life if she loses control. At lunch, Maria confides in the group about her demonic heritage and struggle to control her powers, exacerbated by her recent battle. Fearing expulsion, Maria seeks their support. Blade accompanies Maria to testing grounds too, urging her to unleash her full strength. With his assurance, Maria releases her power, transforming into her Demon King form, overwhelming Ernest, Leonard, and Sophie. Blade engages her in a fierce battle, but struggles against her formidable might. Desperate, Blade wields Asmodeus from Ernest and unleashes the Holy Demon Blade at maximum power, overpowering Maria's defenses. As the clash peaks, Blade collapses, saved just in time by the doctor's intervention. His Majesty reveals Maria's true identity as the Demon King's daughter, marking a new chapter for them both. Now named Mao, Maria integrates into student life, though her dual personality with Maria remains a concern. Mao admits her attachment to Blade, struggling with Maria's reluctance to use her full power. To reconcile her identities, Mao and the group experiment with a pendant believed to contain Maria's essence. A recording reveals the Demon King's apology to Maria's mother, providing closure for both Maria and Mao. As Mao fades, allowing Maria to return, the group bids farewell to Mao, acknowledging the symbiotic relationship between them. With newfound harmony, Maria embraces her duality, allowing Mao to join Blade in combat. Blade, with Ernest, Sophie, and Q, encounters Dione, a centaur, blocking an underpass with her cart. They recognize each other, and Blade asks Dione to keep his identity as the great hero secret. His Majesty appoints Dione as a teacher at Rosewood Academy. In her first class, Daeun impresses students by effortlessly breaking god iron cubes with her demon lance. Despite suspicions, Daeun keeps Blade's past confidential. While bathing Q, Blade interrupts his friend's conversation with Daeun to maintain his privacy. Eventually, Daeun reveals snippets of Blade's childhood without disclosing his heroic deeds. During a shopping trip with Ernest, Blade witnesses the appearance of a 𝐒𝐒𝐿 disrupting a freight wagon carrying a 𝐒𝐒𝐿 egg. His Majesty explains the conditions necessary for its hatching. The next day, the students band together to lift the egg, with Blade orchestrating a plan to divert the 𝐒𝐒𝐿's attention. Throughout the city, the 𝐒𝐒𝐿 wreaks havoc, destroying freight wagons in search of the egg. The students valiantly defend against the 𝐒𝐒𝐿's onslaught until dusk. As the sun begins to set, the students strive to raise the egg despite a malfunctioning lift. Determined to protect it, they urge Blade to carry the egg to safety. With Daeun's assistance, Blade ascends the wall, reaching the top just before sunset. They are greeted by His Majesty, who reveals a debt owed to a 𝐒𝐒𝐿 for saving his life. The 𝐒𝐒𝐿 continues to approach His Majesty with anger, knocking over the egg. Sophie steps in at the last moment and uses her time-stopping ability. This allows Blade to quickly step in with his Dragon Eater attack too and stop the 𝐒𝐒𝐿 in its tracks. The 𝐒𝐒𝐿 egg finally hatches at the right altitude in the light of the setting sun. The hatchling assumes Blade to be its parent. Blade swiftly defeats his batchmates, culminating in a showdown with Sophie, who questions her ability to best him. Sophie uses her time-stopping ability to strike Blade, but his adamantine body technique withstands her attacks. In retaliation, Blade fatally wounds Sophie. Exiting the virtual reality, His Majesty explains the training's purpose, showcasing the lost magic of science. As the scene shifts to Candyland, Ernest becomes ruthless, setting her sights on Blade. Meanwhile, the girls claim victory in a tag match against the boys. Furious over her loss, Ernest takes control of the training program, intensifying the challenges. His Majesty faces the virtual demons until lunchtime, leaving 𝐒𝐿 and 𝐒𝐿 behind. During lunch, 𝐒𝐿 and 𝐒𝐿 feel humiliated by their defeat and isolate themselves. Blade tries to explain to Ernest, but only worsens their shame. Blade suggests a visit to the therma to lift the mood, but tensions rise due to His Majesty's behavior. Despite attempts to console them, 𝐒𝐿 and 𝐒𝐿 remain withdrawn. Q advises the boys to become stronger, sparking a desire to train under Blade. Meanwhile, Q overhears the girls planning to let the boys win and encourages them to train harder. The next day, both teams engage in a fierce battle in virtual reality, showing their newfound fighting spirits. Despite the competition, the girls emerge victorious. Eventually, they reconcile, with the boys acknowledging the girls' support. Ernest admonishes the boys for their misconception about falling in love with someone stronger, emphasizing relationship equality. In the arena, with Q by his side, Blade conserves his energy, anticipating future needs. The girls arrive with a robot seeking Blade's attention, which he destroys with his Dragon Eater attack. Enraged, the girls scold him, revealing the robot as a guardian. Rebuilt in a humanoid form, the android, named Iona, attacks Blade repeatedly. Despite his defense, Blade destroys her again. Rebuilt once more, Iona joins the girls in strategizing to defeat Blade by separating her from the mother computer. During their battle, Iona's modification forces Blade to hold back, ultimately conceding defeat. After the battle, the group shares lunch, surprised to see Iona consuming food. She confides in them about her existential crisis, seeking a new supervisor after being separated from the mother computer. To help her, Blade agrees to become her master. The following days see Iona serving Blade faithfully, leading to a competition between Sophie and Iona to please him. Despite their efforts, Blade intervenes, halting their competition. That night, as Blade falls asleep, Iona and Sophie bond over their shared experiences, growing closer. However, when Blade commands Iona to show him the counter, they discover it hasn't stopped, prompting sadness among the students. As they bid farewell to Iona with a heartfelt send-off party, Blade reveals he convinced Mother to reconnect with her, eliminating the threat of self-destruction. Grateful, Iona embraces Blade in a hug as everyone watches in relief and joy. In the sparring round, Blade easily defeats all his castmates, leaving only Leonard standing. Leonard, desperate to impress Ernest, challenges Blade but is swiftly defeated by Blade's evasion tactics, leaving him feeling dejected. The following day, Mao and Leonard discuss their determination to defeat Blade, with Mao encouraging Leonard to pursue this goal. Leonard resolves to challenge Blade, seeing it as the only way to earn recognition from the Empress. The students convene to strategize on how to defeat Blade, with various suggestions ranging from attacking him while he sleeps to poisoning him. Ernest disapproves of these cowardly tactics, but acknowledges the need to use bows and lances against Blades. Failing to agree on a unified approach, they each attempt their own methods, all of which end in failure. Blade effortlessly overcomes each challenge, emerging victorious in every competition proposed by Ernest. As the students run out of ideas to overpower Blade, they recall a strategy used against 𝐼𝐍 and decide to stage a hostage situation. During a medical class, masked terrorists raid the room, holding the teacher hostage. However, Blade remains oblivious to the concept of hostages, frustrating the students' efforts to intimidate him. When Leonard threatens to harm Ernest, Blade responds with a powerful slash that exposes the boys' deception, leaving them embarrassed and defeated once again. Blade approaches Ernest, unaware of the lunchroom's festive atmosphere. Ernest informs him it's a birthday celebration. During tea time, Dale mentions Blade's upcoming birthday, sparking the group's plan for a surprise. His Majesty suggests tonkatsu curry as a gift idea. The next day, the Emperor assigns the students to consume 100 million calories each. Claire and Jessica narrowly escape danger while hunting, but Leonard's rescue attempt fails. At night, Ernest seeks to learn about Blade's past in the bath, interrupted awkwardly by Claire. The next day, students rally as the Emperor announces a new goal, 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐈𝐍𝐿. They face challenges like battling a cabbage and a boxing corn, overcoming giant sunflowers and screaming carrots. That night, the Emperor introduces the final challenge, facing the Beast King. Before the battle, another monster intervenes, slashing the Beast King. In a fierce battle, Leonard protects the students while Blade and Mao combine their strength to defeat the behemoth. The following day, Blade learns he can use 18% of his power. At lunch, his friends surprise him with a birthday celebration, offering a meal from the collected ingredients. Overwhelmed, Blade allows himself to cry tears of joy. During arena training, the boys mistake Sophie's doppelganger for her, urging her to use a sword. She unleashes Dragon Smash, accidentally stripping Clay and Kasim. Sophie steps in to protect Blade. Yoon's disappearance shocks everyone. In a warehouse, she faces criticism from other clones and challenges 𝐒𝐿 to destroy her. Do kisses her to share data, leading to an explosion. Meanwhile, in the arena, Blade fights Do, another doppelganger. Sophie arrives and challenges Do to a fight, but Do flees. At lunch, the students discuss the appearance of the doppelgangers, with Blade noticing Sophie's unusual behavior. In the warehouse, the clones are summoned by an unknown entity, reinforcing their mission to kill Blade. That night, Sophie enters Blade's room, encountering 𝐼𝐍, who assures her everything is fine. Sophie then encounters Yoon, attempting to reason with her before being attacked. Sophie manages to restrain Yoon but chooses not to harm her. The next day, 𝐒𝐿 attacks Blade in the VR world, mistaking it for reality. Later, 𝐒𝐿 and Do chase Blade and 𝐼𝐍 through the building, leading to a confrontation with mages. Despite their efforts, the mages struggle to stop the doppelgangers. Blade and Ernest intervene, with Sophie concealing a black hole created by 𝐒𝐿 and 𝐶𝐿. Multiple doppelgangers of Sophie are witnessed by Blade as they depart. Later, Sophie regains consciousness and apologizes for the chaos. She explains that the clones were created through the Artificial Great Hero Project, revealing her own origin and how His Majesty rescued her. Blade expresses a desire to befriend the clones, but Sophie believes it's not possible due to their programming. The students confront His Majesty about Sophie's disappearance, expressing frustration at his failure to prevent it. Blade admits his own dissatisfaction, leading them to set out at dawn to find her. Surprised, Blade finds everyone else ready to search for Sophie too. They locate her at an abandoned warehouse, where she reveals her past involvement with the Artificial Great Heroes project and her need to return to it. Ernest and Blade offer their support, pledging to help her save the other Artificial Great Heroes. Meanwhile, the Artificial Heroes seek advice from an old scientist, while Yoon receives an invitation from the group to fight Blade. In the arena, Blade prepares for battle as his friends gather in the stands. The Artificial Great Heroes arrive to fight him, engaging in a 5-1 battle. Despite their advantage, Blade's friends provide him with capsules to counter the heroes' special attacks, allowing Blade to defeat them one by one. However, the last hero shatters Blade's sword before succumbing to the effects of her limited lifespan. Sophie intervenes to protect Blade from further attacks, enabling him to defeat the remaining heroes. As the sun rises, the last hero's time runs out. Blade seeks a way to save them, but discovers that their creator died before they could be deployed, leaving them with no hope of extending their lifespan. Sophie suggests transferring the consciousness of her sisters into herself, using her artificial hero ability. Blade agrees, and the heroes' consciousnesses are transferred to Sophie. In the hospital, Blade receives a visit from Yoon, now housed within Sophie. She vows to defeat him once he has recovered, expressing gratitude for his sacrifice. And that wraps up today's recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks for tuning in.